Are there any drummers in the house?
I play percussion.
That's because he couldn't play anything else.
Shut up.
Come here, dude.
Hey, man. Did you touch my drum set?
Nope.
It's just weird, because seems like someone definitely touched my drum set.
Yeah, that is weird. 'Cause I didn't touch them.
I am warning you right now, if you touch my drums, I will stab you in the neck with a knife.
Not quite my tempo. It's all good.
Hey guys, if you could subscribe to the podcast and make sure you leave positive reviews on iTunes, really helps us with the rankings, helps the visibility of the podcast be seen, and also we have a Patreon page. So if you want to donate $1, $2, $3, $5, also if you want to be on the podcast, like you want to promote your band or you want to promote your new company, $100 will get you on the podcast. You know, it's a great way to promote, and you also get a 30-day promotion on Instagram, which is a great way to get your company out there. So if you could go leave positive reviews, subscribe, it's easy. If you got an iPhone or if you got a Android, hit that subscribe button. It's on Google Play, we're on iTunes. Just hit subscribe. It's so easy. Easy. And also, the positive reviews really do help. So anything and everything helps the podcast, and I would love you forever if you can do one of those things. Or all. It's up to you. Thanks. Hey guys, welcome back to the Drumheads Podcast. My name is Daniel, and this is episode 84 with Rick and Terry from Crush Drums. What? I know, it's crazy. It's also the return of Adam Alesbrook, so it was very great to have Adam back on the podcast, and this was a wonderful podcast. This is one of my favorite. It was very exciting. It was a very positive, feel-good episode. It was great to have Adam on because Adam is a Crush drum user, and I've always been an admirer of them. And I kind of was just like researching. I'm like, where has Crush drums been? They've kind of been laying low. So I reached out to, it was Rick, and said, hey, I'd love to have you on the podcast. Yeah, let's do it. We got some great news coming up. I'm like, ooh, exciting. Let's do this. So he said, it was a very short amount of time. It was like, I think a week, where he's like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, oh, okay. So it was great. And then I texted Adam. I said, dude, I got to have you on. You're the Crush drum user. You've been, very positive about the stuff you've said about their drums. So you got to be on. He's like, yeah, let's do it. So we had Adam on. It was just a great conversation. I don't think I talked a lot in this interview. I think I just was sitting back and just listening to Adam talking about, why he loves his drums so much. And he's, part of this Crush Drums forum on Facebook, and that it was great to see that the guys from Crush Drums would get on that forum and interact with their audience, which is great. There's a lot of companies that could just, get on and not really say anything. They don't really they're not taking advice from their, their drummers that use their products, maybe from the artists, but, not just your everyday drummers, but they were, they were having a problem with the acrylic drums at one point where they were putting coated heads on the snare, and it was leaving, white marks on, the toms and stuff. They're like, can you put a clear head with maybe a dot? And they did. So they changed, that was something they listened to their fans and said, yes, we can do that. That's an easy change. Thank you for the, advice. We will move forward. So it was great to hear that. And it was just great to hear the story of, where April's going to be a huge month for them. It's going to be a new launch of Crush Drums. They've been working on some things. It's been taking a little bit of time. With the music world, things take time. I can attest to that. And so to hear their story of how all these things are going to be coming up in April, it's going to be a new launch and new products. The tried and true will still be there, and just hearing the story, the backstory behind that, just makes it so fascinating. And for them to, really go into, they didn't go into super overboard detail, but they went into pretty good detail about it. And it was really great to hear Adam, who's been, watching and listening for an announcement to be made by Crush Drums, and for him to hear that from themselves and hear all what's going on. It was just nice. It was just a great podcast. Every podcast I do, I'm always thrilled to have the guest on because they always bring an excitement to the podcast. And yeah, that's what I love about this podcast. It's just so fun. So here it is, episode 84, which I have to say 84 is a great year because that's the year I was born. And also, I think that was the year that the world was going to end one time, but it didn't, so we're all good. So here it is, episode 84 with Crush Drums. Do it! Hey guys, welcome back to the Drumheads podcast. My name is Daniel, and I am joined by Adam Alesbrook. How are you, Adam?
I'm good, Daniel. Thank you.
It is wonderful to hear your voice again. It's been too long, my friend.
It absolutely has. Yeah. Very busy though, so it's good.
Yep. But we are joined by two gentlemen from Crush Drums. We've got Terry and Ricky. How are you guys?
Doing well. How about you?
We're doing great.
Fantastic. Before we were talking, I was talking about how when you guys were like, yeah, let's do this podcast. I'm like, I had to have Adam on because Adam, my co-host, is a Crush Drum owner. So I'm like, gotta have him on. So I was like, yes.
Yeah. That's very
Yeah.
cool. That's great. Love it. What kit are you playing, Adam?
Yeah, so I bought my kit I'd say maybe 3 years ago. When we bought my house, I finally had space to put a kit in it that was of substantial size. So I had been dreaming about the Sublime E3 kit, the white with the lime stripe. So
good choice.
that's what I have. I absolutely love it. It a lot of my style of drumming is very much that sort of vintagey 60s kind of stuff, I guess, like classic rock kind of stuff. And to me, that kit just like really fit that mold a little bit. Like it just, and of course I got, I have the John Bonham sizes basically. So the 26-inch bass, and so I bought the kit that comes with the 26-inch bass, and I added the 18-inch floor tom on it.
Okay, very cool. Awesome.
It's a beast. I love it.
Great, man. We appreciate the support for sure. Yeah, that the whole idea behind the Sublime series was kind of going back and having that fuller, fatter tone that you got with more of the vintage drums. A lot of the guys we talked to, were playing vintage drums in the studios, things like that. And it was kind of, how do we get that sound, but actually put good bearing edges on it? Because if you open a lot of those vintage kits, the bearing edges are awful, and that's part of their charm.
Right.
So, we found a way to round the bearing edge a little bit and get that fatter tone in there, so you could pull out that more, classic vintage tone. But we left a sharp top on it for the guys that like to tune up a little bit more and have something that kind of barks too.
Right. Yeah. And you put those re-rings in there too, which are just beautiful.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm sitting here listening. I'm like, this is so cool. This is just so cool that Adam can just like tell you guys what he likes about his drum set, and it's such like a cool, gratifying thing. It's like, this is just awesome.
Cool, man. Thank you. We're really happy you guys gave us this opportunity.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I guess we'll just start off. We'll start with you, Terry. So just tell everybody a little about your drumming background.
Started playing drums in church when I was 12, mainly because my dad was the music director, and the drummer was not very consistent. He didn't come in all the time, and I come from a family of guitar players. And so I just started getting up, messing around on the drums, and I really started liking it. And then one day he heard me playing, and he's like, all right, you're my new church drummer. I was 12 and scared and could play like 3 beats, but I just played them at different tempos, and it seemed to work out. I'm kind of stuck with it from there.
Yeah.
And so that's where I got my start. And then Rick and I actually, met playing in bands together before we started Crush.
Yeah.
And so, we played in bands together. And went on to record some stuff, went out and played on the road for a little while. And then for me, I just kind of decided I didn't like the touring thing. Got a lot of friends of mine that love it, but I just wasn't into it. And so I really started getting into recording, and I recorded with my brother, Tommy Platt, and we used to kind of split it up. I would do all the drum and bass tracking, and he would come in and finish out the projects. So I really started getting interested in different drum tones and what made them sound the way they did, and started researching it. And then eventually I had a job opportunity to work for a drum company in sales. And then the division manager there moved on to another company, and I got to take over that spot and really started learning how to design and manufacture the drums. And a few years later, we kind of had this idea to do Crush, mainly because after being in the industry and seeing kind of how people were making their kits. And I mean, there's a lot of great companies out there making good stuff, but we saw an opportunity to make better quality stuff while keeping it affordable. And that's really why we started Crush Drums.
Nice.
Right. Yeah.
What about you, Rick? Because you're a bass player, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I am. Yeah, I am. I can play drums. I can set them up, tear them down, and tune them, but I'm not really a drummer. Same thing with me. My dad needed a bass player in his church, and I started playing bass. And then, I did that all through my younger years, same thing. And, as I got older, decided I wanted to start playing in bands too. And that's when, Terry and I met. Terry and I have been friends for over 20 plus years. So, in one way or another, just kind of pursued music. I love the industry. I love the people that are involved with it. And music touches a lot of people in different ways. And it always did me. It was a healing thing for me, and it was an escape for me. And I just wanted to be involved in the industry. Terry was actually working for another major drum company locally in our town. They gave me an opportunity to come over there and start working, and I kind of showed an interest with some artists and started doing some things, and they ended up hiring me as artist relations for the company. And we signed a lot of big artists, did some great things, but moving forward, there was just we always felt like there was a need. The one thing that we really kind of prided ourselves in was our relationship with our artists and our end users. And we always wanted to have a company that made those guys a part of what we do and not just sit behind a kit. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So there was always a great reach out to them to find out what they were looking for, because nobody knows your product better than the guys that are out there slinging it every day, the ones that are throwing it in road cases and tearing it up and setting it down, and Lord forbid the stagehands that grab your stuff and drop it half the time. And so we were, and so we were able to get a lot of feedback from that, and just felt like, let's do this. We had an opportunity presented to us, and we said, let's do this, and let's try to make it different. Let's do something that is just different from everybody else. Make it a community and make it a family with what we do, So, and then that's basically like you said, how kind of Crush came about, the idea of it and why we wanted to do it.
Nice. And, and Adam and I were talking before we even hopped on with you guys, and we were talking about the Facebook page that Crush has, for, there's what is it, Adam, exactly? It's a fan site, I guess you would say.
Yeah, did Raymond start that, or did you guys start that, or did somebody
started that? He actually got at me a message and said, "Hey, I really want to start a more of a fan consumer side Facebook page. Are you guys okay with it?" And I was like, "Yeah, now's actually a weird time for us, and we can get into that later." I said, but yeah, that would be awesome, And Rick and I were just kind of like blown away that, man, we got guys who bought drum sets and they want to set up Facebook pages and talk about it. And I thought it was a cool idea, because we can go on there and read the post and really kind of get a pulse for what people are thinking, or what's going on in their heads, and kind of really help direct what we're doing here to make things better for everybody, or to keep doing the things that everybody loved.
Yeah. But the thing that Adam and I were talking about is, the community between the drummers, and, but if they're trying to like find gear or sell gear and stuff like that, they can find it real easy. I think Adam said you saw someone trying to sell like a 25-piece kit, acrylic kit,
Yeah, I just put that on your Facebook page like 2 seconds ago.
Nice.
It's ridiculous. I'd have to buy a bigger house.
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, man, I didn't remember we made that many sizes.
Nice. So with Crush Drums, how did the name Crush come about? I was curious.
It's kind of a funny story. Like a lot of things that we do here, we just kind of throw ideas out and then it kind of comes together.
And it usually ends up turning into really sarcastic jokes, by the way. It just gets really stupid and ridiculous.
Yeah.
So true. But I had written down, once I kind of had an idea that, this is what I wanted to do, and you know, I had to be real careful because, you know, we did work at another drum company, so I didn't want to do anything where we were designing product, any of that kind of stuff while we were still working there. But you know, really had to come up with a name. And so I wrote down a bunch of names, and I didn't really like any of them. And Crush was part of that list. I probably had 30 or 40 names on a piece of paper. And, you know, it's kind of going back and forth. And I'm like, I'm really not sure. And so one day I got a phone call from one of our drummers calling me about another one of our drummers who was on TV. And he's like, hey, did you catch, you know, Will playing on TV the other night? He was crushing it. And I thought, well, you know, okay, cool, you know, Crush. And just from doing some marketing research and the name and, you know, keeping it simple, short, impactful, something people can remember, you know, I kind of came to Rick and I was like, you know, I'm kind of leaning towards this name Crush, just because, you know, gave him the reasons. And he was like, oh, yeah, but that's also like, you know, your first love affair, your first crush. It was like really cool because it was like, oh, now we've got all this, you know, marketing for days on either side, you know, whether you're talking about it or whether you're talking about your first love. And so it kind of made sense. And then, you know, being a person who grew up, you know, in a Christian home, you know, still read my Bible every day. And it was literally like a day later, I just opened the Bible randomly and the word crush was in the Bible verse. I think it's the only time they used it in the Bible. And it just was like, okay, that's confirmation for me. That's the name. And so
everything's coming together.
That's how we kind of made that.
And you know what was really cool about that whole story, when we first started, we decided to and you guys got to remember that, I mean, we basically started this company with a name and a logo. We had no drums. We had, for real. And then people are like, you guys are out of your mind. And we took a full page ad out in Modern Drummer magazine and stuck a black silhouetted kit, just a shafted kit. You can't even see it. All you can see is the badge and the logo. And I came in one day and I said, let's put up on top, you never forget your first crush. And we stuck that in the magazine. And, you know, here we spent what, $3,000?
About $4,800.
About $4,800 on a full page ad with a company that didn't even have drums. And people were like, you guys are stupid. But it created such a huge buzz in the industry because nobody knew. They were like, what is it? Who are these people? What is the kid? What does it look like? And we got bombarded message boards and just things started flooding in about the company and who we were. We couldn't answer nobody because we didn't even know who we were at the time. So, but it worked. It was just something so simple and it worked.
What year was that?
That's just the way that was 2010.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And what was crazy, you know, when we first started the company, the idea was, you know, I knew how to get the shells and the bearing edges and everything I wanted, but there's a huge expense in creating your own parts as far as lugs and bass drum claws and all that kind of stuff.
Especially if you want to be set apart.
Yeah. And so, in the beginning, we were really going to just do tube lugs on drums and things like that. And so that's why we booked the ad space in Modern Drummer, because we're like, oh, yeah, we'll definitely have a kit together by the time that hit comes around. And then the opportunity came up where the factories that we were working with, you know, I kind of told them that eventually we want to make all of our own stuff. And they were really, they stepped up for us and we're like, well, let's just do it now. And then you guys can pay us back over time. And, because there's, you know, tens of thousands of dollars in tooling, you know, different parts. And so just, it was like, well, let's not show anything then, because we want to show it when it's all of our stuff, the stuff that we designed. And so that's where the silhouette kit ad came from. And it happened to work out really well for us.
Nice.
You know, some of those old like tube lug kits show up every now and then, and they're really neat. There was one, was it for Ben Setterly? Was that?
Oh, Ben Setterly. Yeah.
Yeah. He had like a green sparkle kit that recently showed up on that Facebook page, and everyone's like, "Wow, that looks really kind of neat," you know. And there's that sort of the fact that it's, you know, something before your lug design. You know, it's kind of like that. This is like almost like a vintage thing within the company. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, and the reason those kits came about is when we left our other drum company, we kind of made a conscious decision that we're not going to try to pick artists or anything like that from our old company, because we didn't want to leave on bad terms that way.
Right.
As soon as guys found out we were leaving, they're like, okay. And so, we had guys playing on TV shows and all kinds of crazy stuff. So
yeah, well, what was crazy was these guys just wanted to follow us. So what they did was they one night I'm sitting there watching like the Country Music Awards, and one of our artists was on there who was still playing his old drums because we had nothing. And he literally went out and made his own Crush logo and stuck it on the front of the bass drum. And Tarek calls me up and he's like, dude, are you watching this? And I said, yeah, we're in so much trouble, man. Because we started getting phone calls from the other drum companies going, why did you put your logos on our drums? We're like, we didn't do that.
So, right. So we scrambled really quick, and I think we made 12 kits, just, standard tube lugs, but, with our badges, our bearing edges, all that stuff on them. And when those came in, they went to all the backline companies. So if guys were playing on TV or whatever, they could, get those kits. And then a couple of the artists that were playing for us at the time.
Yeah.
Nice. So. Adam, how did you become familiar with Crush drums, just out of curiosity?
I was in one of the magazines, maybe it was like a musician's friend catalog or something. I saw I think I saw like one of the I don't even know what they're called anymore. The the green and the orange, like the
Alien.
Yeah. So I saw those and I really liked it, and so I looked into the company a little more, and that's when I saw that green stripe, and I was like, you got to be kidding me! This thing's amazing. And I used to look at it online all the time, and I said, I can't find one. I forget what site I was looking at, but I could only find it with like a 22 and a 24-inch kick. And I said to myself, man, if ever I saw one of these and a 26-inch kick, I would scoop it up. Like I'd, sell my car and like ride my bike to work or whatever. And then I dug a little bit deeper, and I went to your website and I saw that it was a possibility. And I was like, I have to do it. Like I told myself I would. I can't like lie to myself. So then I got them out of a company, I think down near you, Daniel, down somewhere in like the Carolinas. There was a store that I managed to contact, and they had a kit, and they sent it up to me.
I think.
And I added. Yeah.
I think I know that store. I think it's Musicians Workshop is a dealer.
Workshop. Yeah,
it might be it. I forget now.
Yeah, I think that's the only one like in this region for sure. But
yeah.
The way I came about Crush drums was I'm a big fan of acrylic drums. They're just so cool. They're just so rad.
Definitely.
And I just typed in acrylic drums, and at that time, you guys were really the only, mainstream company that was offering acrylic drums at that time. And it's now all these other, companies, we won't name names, but are jumping onto that bandwagon all of a sudden.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, that's how, I came about it. It's just, that's what I love about the internet. You can just find things and,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and the acrylic was a cool story because when we first started, we had some other stuff, carbon fiber, things like that. And I thought it'd be really cool to do an acrylic kit, but I was trying to figure out how do we make an affordable acrylic kit? Because, normally they start out $1,800 and go up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, what we found an actual acrylic manufacturer in China. And so we helped design the shells there and then had those sent into our factory because, guys at the acrylic factory they're making fish tanks and all these other things.
Yeah.
And we went through probably 5 or 6 different formulations to get the density that we wanted and the strength that we wanted. And when we took it into the factory and they, quoted us the price on how much they would cost to, cut the shells and drill them and all that stuff, I kind of told the guys, I'm like, this is a home run. We can do this kit for around $1,000, which is unheard of. And with acrylic hoops on it, which nobody was doing at that time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so it just kind of all fell into place. It was like the perfect storm for us once again, and it was still a huge successful kit for us.
And of course, quality control on those kits was pretty amazing because we had several samples sent in, and we had a great quality control team of one saying, "Hey, do you want to hold this over your head and drop it and see if it breaks?" And we'd be like, "Yep, let's try that." and we literally would try to break these things just because acrylics can be fragile. So we that's why you'll notice that they're a little heavy, man. They got some weight to them. But Terry was able to hop in and do a lot of really cool stuff with also getting a bearing edge on the acrylics, which was something that was kind of unheard of too, because a lot of the old acrylics were just rounded on the bearing edge, where we actually got a little bit of a 45 with a round off to the top, so that you could still get that deep punch out of those acrylics, which a lot of companies just didn't bother to do. But we were able to get that done. So
and a lot of guys shied away from acrylics because they look great, but sound wise they're not that great. I mean, you can get the sound cool with the right heads and the right tuning, but when we first started bringing them in, guys would be like, oh yeah, acrylic drums, they don't do that well for us. And I'm like, just bring a kit in, set it up, tune it up, and play it, and if you don't fall in love with it, then we'll just take it back. And guys, instantly they were getting them in, and they were kind of blown away, like, how did you guys get this tone out of acrylic? And so it's a lot to do with the density of the shell material, as well as the bearing edge that we can put on it.
Yeah.
Well,
I like how you said you did a couple of drop tests, because that seems to be a good way to do it. We had Adam and I had a Mike Martin from Predator Percussion, and he said something similar. It's like, I just dropped it from standing height and to test the shell, and or he was standing on it. I'm like, hey, that works too.
So, definitely.
Yeah. So what is the new? When we were talking back and forth, that there's some big news coming from you guys. So can you give us a little scoop of what's going on with you guys?
Yeah. When are you guys planning on
I'm gonna probably edit this hopefully tonight. It depends if my kids cooperate and go to bed. So it's all on them.
Understood. Some of it's a little time sensitive because well, we can talk about it though. We are allowed to talk about it.
Okay.
So about a year ago, Korg USA came to us. You guys do Korg keyboards, Vox amplification, Black Star,
Spectre basses.
Yeah, some really nice products.
Yeah.
And they approached us about possibly distributing Crush, and we started talking with those guys, and they really loved what we were doing kit wise. It fits in with what they needed. And so they started helping us just bring stuff in initially, because when we started this company, I don't think any of us thought, hey, we're going to start a drum company and get wealthy. And we definitely did not intend to explode the way that we did. And so, we're just a bunch of regular guys, had a couple of guys that had some money, and we kind of all threw it together and started a drum company. And then, we get into it, and we've got $1 million in back orders, and about $400,000 in open account receivables, and we're going to the bank, and the banks are saying, you guys are 2 years old, there's no way we can help you. And so I kind of ran into this weird thing where the drums were selling, people wanted them, we couldn't get them in because we couldn't get paid from the ones we had already shipped to the dealers fast enough to get the new ones shipped in. And so that's why we kind of went with the distributor model. So Korg comes along, and at first it was kind of like, we're just going to test the waters with it, we're going to see what's going on. And since then, they've had us at the NAMM show in the booth. And I could just say that April 3rd is the official launch date, and that's when we'll be able to really talk about everything going on there. But most people can put two and two together and see where that's headed.
Okay, I hear you. Read between the lines. Yeah.
And with that being said, there's also going to be we have new gear that's following.
Ooh, nice.
Have some new stuff that's going to be coming out, and we got some new cool striped kits coming out. Just to let you know that we got.
Adam,
fancy stripe. Yeah, that's my neighborhood right there.
That's all you, Adam. So we'll be showing some of that stuff in the next month or so. You'll be seeing some of the newer gear, followed by doing the Summer NAMM in Nashville, which will also be followed by some new gear as well. We did a lot of upgrades on our hardware. That was one of those things we just felt like it was a need that had to be done. The hardware is really strong. It's tough, and it's roadworthy. So we're really excited about that as well. So, you guys just keep looking at that, because we'll be posting it as soon as we get the final go on it. So
yeah,
Nice.
and this is honestly one of the hardest things for us is we talked to Korg the first time was at the 2016 Winter NAMM show in January, and we could not tell anybody anything about what was going on, not even hint at it until this NAMM show. So for the last year, we've had to kind of sit back and, you know, try not to let it get too out of hand with people talking, trying to figure out where Crush was and what was going on, because nothing seemed to be going on.
Well, people thought we were out of business. So, like
Well, it's funny you said that, because I had that thought.
And it was just one. A lot of people did.
A lot of people did.
And so we would try to get there, you know, but at the same time, it's like, how many times can you say, come on, guys, just hang out a little bit longer and you'll know what's going on before people are like, yeah, whatever, there's nothing going on. You guys are just trying to, you know, manufacture something. And so it was really difficult for us, you know, and Korg knew it, and they even kind of apologized in the beginning, but, you know, we're like, hey, you know what? You guys are taking a chance on us. You're a huge company that can definitely finally back what we're trying to do, making sure that the product is here, that dealers have the product, the consumers are getting the parts and stuff they need. And so for us, it was definitely kind of a thing where it was hard, but at the same time, you know, obviously we could see where it was going, and we were super excited about it. So now we're happy we can finally start talking about this stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great. That's exciting for me. I know I was one of the people that you had a while back. You had the post on your page where it said, you know, we got exciting news coming in the fall, and then like the fall showed up, and we're like, where's this news? And then it never quite came out. And I think that's when some people started to be like, well, if the news isn't coming out, I wonder what that means, right? And people started speculating. But I was one of those people that, like, I would sit down on my computer, I'd check my Facebook, check my email, see if you took down that banner yet, and like then I'd, like, you know, go get to work. But that was like always part of my daily routine to see what was going on.
We did that on purpose just to get you irritated.
It worked a little bit.
Nice. It's almost like a Star Wars movie. It's like we can't tell all the secrets, you know, in the backstory. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
analogy.
Yeah, I know, technology. Yeah. So I guess let's back up a little bit. And so some of the artists, who are some of your artists that you're, you know, really excited to have on board with you guys?
Well, you know, the biggest thing for us, and I mean, through our downtime, I mean, you know, we suffered some damage with artists because, you know, guys are out there on tour, they need stuff, and it was just difficult to get stuff to them. And, you know, and we understood, you know, if they had to go somewhere else because they had a need. What we're really focusing on is the guys that just hung in there with us, that just stayed and said, you know what, man, I believe in you guys. We're hanging in. We're gonna, you know, wait for something cool to happen, and you know, we want to be a part of it. And, you know, we still have a good, you know, handful of guys in mixed genres. You know, guys like Keith Zabrowski, who plays with Miranda Lambert, has been one of them. You know, he gets huge exposure with her. You know, we've got guys that are still doing the late night talk shows, and so they're still getting, you know, that Crush logo out there on TV. I mean, we still got our metal guys and our gospel artists that have really carried the flag for us. You know, guys like Yogi with Demon Hunter and
Brent Easton.
Brent Easton, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you haven't checked out his videos yet, you gotta watch him play.
Oh, I've watched everything he's got.
He's a monster.
He's got one of those. He's got one of my green stripe kits over here with the tube lugs on it, I believe.
That's actually Pudge's kit.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was Pudge Trivet. He borrowed that from
That's
him.
right.
Yeah.
Brent has
Oh,
the
okay.
green sparkle.
Which crazy thing, you know, Pudge, that's the first kit that Pudge ever got. And he's had that kit now for 5 years.
More than that, since 2000.
Yeah, and has never, you know, has not wanted another kit. He's like, this is all I need. I'm good with this.
Huh.
You know, so.
Yeah, and that's how a lot of our artists kind of played it off. I actually just sat down with Eric Wigdahl. You guys may have seen some posts on Facebook. I was out at a show this past week, and yeah, he's been playing that same. It's a Sublime AXM, which is the ash and maple kit. He's probably been playing that kit 5 years, and he was one of the guys. And he's like, man, I love my kit. I don't really have a need for another kit, so just let me know when things are back on track, and you know, I don't need to go anywhere. I got what I need. Yeah. So, we're really thankful that we did have artists like that, that kind of understood where we were coming from and knew the vision of the company from the beginning. And that's a lot to say for Rick because, like Rick said, he loves the industry. And, Rick's always been a really approachable, friendly guy. But, when he makes a relationship with somebody, it's pretty much lifelong, unless you make him mad, then you're never his friend again. But
that's true.
Yeah.
And this company right here, we all pack heat every day.
We don't argue much around there.
We don't argue much because we all got guns on our hips.
Yeah.
You went live on Facebook not too long ago with Edub, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he's been on that page. He will defend you guys to the T.
He'll hit you.
I made a comment once, and I did not mean any disrespect at all because I love your product and I thought it was fantastic. But I asked a question that it was before now. I was like, so I heard there at the Korg booth. What does that mean? And he came at me like I was being offensive, and I was like, I'm really not being offensive. I mean, I'm one of the biggest fans in the world, but
and he's a great guy. But it's funny because and that's the thing with some of the artists that we have is they took it personal because they knew that we were going through this time. We were one distributor that had us. They did a good job for us, but logistically they weren't set up to handle the amount of drums that we were trying to get in and out. And they were new to drums, so they didn't want us to design anything new. So it was kind of like this 2-year period where we did nothing new, really trying to help them out to get going in it. And finally, it just made sense for us to go our separate ways because, they just couldn't handle the brand. And so then, the thing with Korg started, and so guys like Edub, they saw the internal struggles and what we were kind of going through, and they kind of took it to heart because that's what we built. Good or bad, it's this community of drummers that really believe in what's going on here because they know it's not a bunch of guys just kind of trying to come up with price points and make kits. We're trying to make really good kits and make sure that drummers are getting what they need and not breaking the bank. You can buy a drum set and cymbals, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, to be honest, Terry, one of the first things I remember about Crush, before I bought my kit, I used to be a lot more sort of active on, is it Drummers World forum?
Yeah.
And I think you used to post there quite a bit under a lot of like the Crush threads. People were asking questions and like getting stuff on the table there. And I just thought it was awesome. I'm like, wow, like you don't see anybody else from any other drum company actually like coming into like the fray of internet like message boards and like communicating with people. It's great. And that was that what you're talking about, that drummers for drummers kind of thing. And I noticed that right away, and I think a lot of people did. I think that really it speaks to that community again that you're saying. So
yeah, man, I appreciate you recognizing that. It was funny when we first came out with the acrylic kit, we had a coated head on the snare drum. Through Facebook, we had a couple of guys that were like, man, we really love the acrylic. The thing that we don't like is we've got this coated head on our snare, which sounds great, but then when you go from your snare drum to your toms, we're leaving white prints white on our other heads. And so we just went on there and was like, hey guys, how would you guys feel about maybe doing like a dot head or something like that so we can get rid of that? And guys were just kind of blown away, like, seriously, you guys actually are listening to what we're saying?
Yeah.
And that's why we built the company. We really built it for drummers. And one thing Rick and I are excited about with this new partnership is that we can really sit back and focus on that side of it again, and not really worry about the warehousing of drums and the sales and the marketing side. We'll still have a hand in marketing as far as the marketing direction, but Korg will pick up all the other stuff on that, so we can really focus on those things that were really important to us.
Yeah. And moving with that whole idea of reaching out and communicating with people, whether it's on message forums or Facebook or anything like that, that wasn't something that we sat around in a room and said, hey, let's be proactive and do this or do that. It's just who we are.
Right.
We're a couple regular guys that started a company, and we're family guys, and our passion and our heart is in this. So when we see people out there playing our gear and loving what we've done, it is the biggest reward that we can have as a company. because that's what it's really all about. I mean, we've created something, and people love it, and people want to play it and be a part of it and feel like they're part of that community. So that was something that was just natural to us, because we knew that's how we would want to be treated. You know, you go on those things. I would have loved to have, you know, been on some of the sites and, you know, saw the heads of some of the other companies hop in and make comments and say things. And I always felt like, man, I'd really appreciate that. You know, it'd be great to get contacted by a person like that their feet are to the ground and their ears to the ground, listening to what the fans are saying about your product. So, you know, that's just who we are as a company, man. That's not an act. It's real.
Yeah, that's great. There was a whole bunch of things that got me geared towards Crush, and that was definitely one of the major components of sort of me choosing you guys or your brand.
Cool, man. Appreciate
really.
it.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you guys.
I knew I had there was a reason why you were on, Adam.
Yeah, well, I mean,
yeah, this is awesome. Yeah.
Well, I said to you the other day, because Daniel posted on, I think, like Instagram or something, like a drum kit builder.
Oh yeah,
like one of these apps where you can design your drum kit, like layout and stuff. And I think my comment was like, it's a great app and stuff, but like I pretty much have my dream drum kit right now. There's nothing I could get that app, but I wouldn't. I'd just build the drum kit that's in my basement. Like I wouldn't. It's like I don't know.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, and it's a different time, you know. 2 years, you know, doesn't sound like a lot of time, but it really is, especially the way the Instagram and the drumming community has really changed over the past 2 years. You know, you've got a lot of drummers who are making a name for themselves who don't really tour. You know, they put up videos of them playing in their, you know, their basement, their garage or whatever, and it's a different world all of a sudden. It's crazy.
Completely.
Yeah.
I've got a 7-year-old and a 13-year-old, and I was just talking to my 13-year-old last night, and I said, you know, one of the strangest things to me is that you've never known life without an iPhone or an iPad.
Yeah, totally.
And access to any information you need pretty much instantly. You know, which is it's daunting in a way as a, you know, a drum company, because it's like people they ask a question and they expect an answer yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
you know, sometimes it's like, well, you know, we still have some things that we have to follow through. We have to make phone calls. You know, there's things we have to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're very cognizant of the fact that we've got to make sure that we're on our game and going forward. You know, make sure that we're releasing information when we have all the information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great time, and like you said, the access to information. You know, I was trying to explain to my son last night. He's 7. I was trying to explain a cassette tape to him, and you know, he could not wrap it around his mind. You know, I just kept saying it's like, you know, there was no skipping to the song you liked or any of that. You know, you had to fast forward, rewind, and he just could not. It just did not compute. You know.
Yeah, when you bought a single, you bought a single cassette.
Yeah, totally.
And you know, I hate to geek out on that, but God, I miss opening a cassette and just the smell of it.
Oh, right, yeah.
And reading the J sleeve and reading who was on it. I mean, that was my cereal box. You know, I would read everything in those.
Yeah.
I actually use that as a threat to my sons, because I still have a cassette player and a VCR, a Walkman, and I always tell them that, you know, when they start to get a little impatient about things, I'm like, dude, I'm taking the DVD players and everything out, and we're going back old school. You're gonna have to sit and wait to listen to that song again.
Yeah, play an old Nintendo.
Oh, that's what we've been doing. Is like we have, you know, just the Nintendo Wii, but we've been downloading these old school games. Like I've been playing Super Contra with my kids, you know, and they're like, they think it's the greatest thing in the world. I'm like, you guys are awesome. You know, the respect for it is so great.
There's that meme going around on Facebook too. It's a picture of a cassette tape and a picture of like a number 2 pencil, and it says, "If you understand why these two things go together, you were born like before 1985 or something."
Yeah, you better believe it. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, they just in the town that I live in, they just opened they call it a museum, but it's like all the old school video games, track and field and asteroids and
No way.
pinball, and like I thought for sure, I took my boys in there. I thought for sure they were going to hate it. We wound up spending like 6 hours there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that only cost $4.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Wow, those were the days for sure.
Yeah.
This is a question I always like to ask when I have people on the podcast is, what are what is the thing you like to do other than play drums or be involved with the drum community? I know like Adam and I have like different hobbies outside of, drumming. Like I'm into movies and stuff like that. Adam, likes to, do a lot of hiking and stuff like that. So what are some of the things you guys do as, to escape?
Rick and I are kind of on the same page there. Born and raised in Florida, spent a lot of time fishing, a lot of time hunting, and so that's kind of, if we're not doing this, actually sometimes in the middle of doing this, and one of us is like, man, I need a break, need to go think. We'll just drive down to the bay and grab a bucket of shrimp and go down there and fish for an hour or two.
A couple of cold beers and hit the water and fish.
Nice.
Right. Sounds great.
Yeah. Or we go to the gun range and literally blow off some steam and stuff like that. So yeah, we enjoy that kind of stuff.
And then the only other thing that I really could say that I got into pretty heavy for a while was flying remote control airplanes and building those.
Oh, that's cool.
It was cool to me just because of the time that goes into building one and then taking it out and flying it and crashing it in the ground and having to rebuild the whole thing.
Right. 5 minutes of flying and 5 months of building.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I was trying to do paper mache oven mitts, but it just wasn't working. I kept burning my hands.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys are located down in Florida, correct?
Tampa.
Yeah, Tampa area.
Tampa, nice. I was trying to explain it to my wife because there's not like a ton of East Coast drum companies. There's 1,000 West Coasts and companies.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like trying to figure it out, and I'm like, oh, they're near Tampa, so that's cool that it's a different part of the country for you guys to be doing your drum company out of.
Yeah,
I used to live down in Florida for about 5 years, and I was between like Jacksonville and St. Augustine.
Okay.
But my grandmother lives out near Tampa, and I had a bunch of friends that lived out in Tampa too. I actually bought a sailboat down in Dunedin. I bought a 32-foot sailboat and sailed it around to St. Augustine.
That's awesome.
Pretty awesome trip right there.
Nice.
But,
yeah.
St. Augustine is probably my favorite place in Florida.
Right. I'd agree with that. That's the same thing for me. Yeah.
That's.
I mean, I was born here in Clearwater. Lived in Nashville for a few years when I was touring, and then realized I lived in Paradise and came back home.
Yeah.
Same for Rick. He was born here in Tampa, so we're that's just where we've been. And we had ideas of maybe moving to other places, but we decided this is where we're going to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. My wife's always like, I'd love to live in Florida. I'm like, I don't know. That heat is sometimes just brutal, but then I'm like, me and Adam are freezing up here in the mountains, and he's in Massachusetts, so it's like maybe it's all right. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Heat for me, I think I'd probably take that over cold most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do like it. When even here in Florida, sometimes it dips down into the. You guys will laugh. Like the 50s or.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I enjoy those times, but there's just something about throwing on a pair of shorts and a t-shirt and heading down to the beach and jumping in the water.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I used to like February.
1 month can't do that.
Yeah.
What part of North Carolina are you from?
Asheville. So right.
Oh, my son's there.
Really? Nice.
Yeah, he works for Wicked Weed Brewing.
Oh yeah. That's a big big time brewery that's getting up here. Like there's 1,000 breweries in Asheville now, but yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's director of their marketing and stuff up there, so he handles all the marketing and all that stuff for those guys.
Cool. That sounds awesome. Yeah. What about I guess to kind of finish up, so there's there's a lot of things going to be happening with you guys coming soon. What what probably be the one thing you're the most excited about, or is it still a secret?
No, I mean just being able, because we never stopped designing new ideas and new things. But there was, 2 years with another distributor that they didn't want to do anything like that. And then, there's been a year and a few months of kind of waiting for this announcement with another company. And, so we've had all these ideas just kind of stored up in our brains, and actually started making some of them, a couple of years ago. So that to us is the most exciting thing is, we'll finally be able to come out and, start being who we were, just kind of trying to stay on the cutting edge of design and development, and bringing stuff out that, may look more custom, but doing it in a production fashion.
Yeah.
And, and just kind of reconnecting with everybody, through our social media, the drummers out there playing the stuff, the artists, everything like that. So we're really excited about that opportunity that now we get to finally bring all this stuff back out. And
it just feels like a relaunch of the company.
Yeah, it feels like it did for us in the very beginning.
Yeah, totally.
That's great.
Yeah, really exciting, and we're happy, really happy with where we're at right now.
Okay. Well, before we jump off, Adam, you got any other questions you'd like to ask, or?
Well, I'm going to do it. I noticed that on the Crush website, you do have that cajon section. Is that something that, is part of the whole relaunch too? You're going to still be distributing cajons and selling cajons?
The cajons are going to be, we're definitely working on it.
Yeah.
Just to give you guys kind of some background on that is we've always tried to think outside the box when it comes to our production with Crush.
Right.
We know that if we stay within the trading companies and things that everybody else uses, that, you're kind of locked into what pricing everybody else gets. So we've always tried to go outside of that community to find things. And we found a furniture maker in China and brought, the designs of the cajons to them. And we're able to make these really nice cajons affordable. Since then, his furniture business is blowing up and he just doesn't have the time to do it. So we found a couple more that we're working with now, and kind of in that training and design phase, teach them what it is that we're building and making sure that they can pull off, the quality that we're getting from the other place. So definitely still on the list, but that'll probably be something that comes out, probably looking at 2018, and then you'll see the new line of coming out.
Yeah. Cool. The reason I asked is I started sort of a small cajon business of my own, right? I would make custom cajons for people. And I actually made one for myself that sort of matches the paint scheme of my kit here. But I remember when you guys first had the cajons on your page, it was before I started making mine. And I was like, man, that would be sweet to get a Crush cajon. And then they were hard to come by, I think, for a little while there.
Yeah,
and,
we got in a bunch, and then that guy he got too busy with making furniture, and we kind of had to switch gears. We always laughed about that because it's like, what do we call them? Because Crush cajons just sounds dirty.
If you sit in the wrong spot, I think.
Yeah. And making furniture, I mean, how lame is that? It's like, come on, build the cajon.
I mean, you can sit on a cajon. That's furniture, isn't
it?
You
can use that as a, furniture.
I have a couple that I use as end tables.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, you guys being on, and I'm honored to, have talked to you guys. I know Adam and I are just blown away that we had, especially I could just imagine Adam is like, a kid in the candy store, just super excited.
And we have that same feeling, and we don't take it lightly that, for us, this was a dream of ours to do this, and the fact that there's people like you guys out there that give us this opportunity to just sit down and talk about it is really awesome to us. It's very humbling.
And I got to tell you too, we've done a few interviews and stuff like this before, and this has been the most fun one that we've ever done.
So, thank you.
Guys, you do a great
fantastic
job, brother, man. It's really, really good.
Definitely.
Yeah, we
awesome.
We try to keep it loose because right now my daughter is wanting to sit in my lap, so it's
that's fine.
Yeah,
we get it.
So yeah, well, cool.
Real life.
Well, thank you, Terry and Rick, for being on, and thank you, Adam, for adding a great component to the podcast.
Hey, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys so much.
So
thank.
And thank you for being on, and we'll have you on in the future if you want to as well. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
All right,
that'd be great. Around Summer NAMM, we'll have some new stuff to talk about. So,
well, I'll be at Summer NAMM, so I'll be sure to track you guys down.
You sneaky.
Perfect.
and I
Adam.
And Daniel, I do frequent Asheville to see my son, so I'll have to hook up with you when I'm there.
Oh yeah, totally. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Whatever. Yeah, if you guys ever show up towards Massachusetts, just let me know. I'll buy you a beer or something.
I don't have a big enough jacket for that place.
Yeah.
I live across from a lake. I have like 16 fishing poles. We could,
Yeah, well, you're starting to pull my arm a little bit.
There you go. You brought fishing into the mix. You got his ear.
Right. Yeah, I live right down the street from a gun range too. You know, it's everything.
All right. Well, never mind. We're going to Massachusetts.
There we go. All right.
You snuck him away from me, Adam.
I'm gonna get my snare drum autograph.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording real quick.